All right, we are here with worshipful brother Bill Ritz. Actually, I'm assuming it's William.
Yes, on my birth certificate.
Never actually called you, I don't think.
Yeah, maybe at the bank.
The bank doesn't know.
Yeah. That's how you weed out the callers when they call, right? Is this William? No, I don't know who you're talking about.
So, Bill Ritz is what I'm going to stick to, though. Past master of Rose Lodge, active member of Scottish Rite, past thrice producing Grand Master, active district Mason, balloon artist enthusiast. I don't know, is that what it's called? Is there like a term for it?
I prefer balloon artist to clown.
balloon artist enthusiast.
Yeah. There's a certain level of respect there. It's balloon artistry, even though I do have the big shoes and big feet.
And guest on the podcast. So thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for doing the balloon. What is it? Is there actually a term? It's called balloon animal demonstration.
Balloon twisting.
Balloon twisting
Yes.
demonstration. I mentioned it in the video of the balloon twisting, but like I said, probably it was such a good memory I have of that meeting because, like I was saying, I was not particularly happy to be at the meeting. I wasn't unhappy to be. It was the type of thing I did because, you want to visit. I had a free night, but I was definitely looking forward to going home. And then, Joe gets up and goes, we have some education from Bill Ritz, and I'm like, I just want to go to sleep.
It's going to be boring.
And then out comes these balloon animals, and it was a pleasant surprise and one of the more fond memories I have of my Masonic journey so far. So thank you for that.
Glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad. Yeah. Joe was the one actually that suggested I do the Masonic education. I thought, oh yeah, he goes, let's do something different. Masonic education so typically is just that, and education about Masonry, which has its place and is important, and I enjoy it a great deal too, and I do a lot of it. But we thought, well, we'll do something, we're going to call everybody on. Everybody always says you can do Masonic education about everything. Okay, let's try it. We're going to do balloon animals, and I think it went off pretty well. Fortunately, we didn't have too big of a group because it would have been like herding cats, getting everybody to get their balloons twisted properly. But it was perfect. We had a lot of fun there.
It was. I had a great time. So it's in the memory bank. It's one of those good memories.
Next one will be origami.
You already challenged me enough with balloon animals. At least we can't pop the origami.
That's true. It rips, but it's a lot harder. Yeah, it lasts a lot longer than balloons do.
There's not going to be any sudden jumping.
Nobody has to duck and cover when you're making origami.
But that brings up a good point. Which is definitely we're talking about to somebody who was a past master and has been so involved is, the importance of challenging Masonry or your brothers to think outside the box and think of different things that can be done. Not every business meeting has to be run exactly the same. Not every Masonic event has to be the same. We all have pancake breakfast, but there's always room for different things. And do you want can you talk about that? Just the importance of, we talked about this even before we started this podcast, about trying different things and being open to new ideas and new considerations.
Well, it's very important, to stay current. Masonry, the nuts and bolts of Masonry cannot change. And I think that's an important aspect of it, right? The landmarks can't be encroached on, and a lot of ways that we do things are set in stone, because we're Masons, and need to remain forever. But within those constraints, there is a little bit of room for some creativity, and I believe it's encouraged by most brethren, young and old alike. People like to see something a little bit different. There's always a few of the old guard that will tut-tut new ideas, and that, the key for a new Mason is just don't get discouraged, and just know that for every guy that says no, there might be a guy that says yes, and we are open to new ideas, and we are open to new things. Like, there's the example. Masonic education is Masonic education, but within that structure, we're able to do all kinds of things, And part of what I talked about when I did the Masonic education about balloon animals is kind of the fun that it's brought into my life, and the fun of being able to share that with people and put a smile on people's faces. And like, I make them at work sometimes. I'm an industrial plumber, It's not something you typically see as some dude covered in grime and grease and twisted balloon animals, eh? So people get a real laugh out of it, and bring a little bit of joy into somebody's life has a great value. Even if it's just something silly like making a balloon. And in that sense, I think it's still kind of qualified as Masonic education. There's a lot of opportunities for new ideas, and I think guys shouldn't be afraid to bring them forth. And if it gets shot down, then just go back to the drawing room or drawing board and come up with something new, and eventually something will take.
It's all about playing the long game, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing wrong with proposing a new idea, and then I always advise too is if you propose a new idea and it gets shot down, listen to why it's getting shot down as best you can, and then when you repropose it, try to keep in mind what the initial objections were. And sometimes that can be the way to get through it, right? Or figure out where they want to go, and then figure out, okay, how can I help them get there, but in a way that also incorporates my idea. Or
eliminates the concerns, right? Don't take it personally. If an idea isn't accepted, it's not a personal attack, and if it is, there's a whole other issue that needs to be addressed, right? But it's not about that. It's not about turning guys down. It's there's a lot of heads come together and people see things from different angles. And your new idea that seemed great when you were mulling it over and brainstorming, maybe you did miss something. Maybe you didn't. Maybe that guy was wrong to question it. But it's working these differences out is part of what the brotherhood is, right? Learning how to do that, and how to deal with people from different backgrounds and different walks of life with different ideas and different directions they want to go, and kind of being able to keep that all together is what makes Masonry so awesome, right?
Absolutely, and it's such a valuable skill that I worry we don't have. We're losing that skill because we're able to, with technology, we're able to pick and choose our, who we associate with to such a greater degree. Like you can go online and do a search and find a group of people who agree with, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It seems like I think before you had to associate with everybody. You had to associate with your neighbors. You couldn't find somebody on the other side of the world who agreed precisely with your point of view.
Yeah.
So you didn't have these echo chambers. I think with Masonry, one of the benefits of it is, you are going to meet people from all walks of life, from all professions. You're going to have, a lawyer, a CEO, to a janitor and a plumber. Every profession, every nationality, every way of life, every religion, it's all represented in a lodge.
Yep.
And you're able to really expand your horizons out.
Yeah, well, and the great part of it too is that in spite of everybody being different and from different backgrounds and that, the common thread and the commonality, we're like-minded, they're moral people, they're good men that are members of this. Like can't say I know too many Masons that aren't really genuinely good people. I can't think of any off the top of my head. We all have our faults, but at the core, you're going to be dealing with good people with good intentions. And that's what fosters that. That's why we're able to try different things in that, because we're supportive of each other. We're not, there's not a lot of jerks around here. That's the reality of it. And that's part of what makes it attractive, right? You can go to a lot of groups where there's, you're going to get that mix in morality, and that's where conflict can come, right? Just different backgrounds don't necessarily mean different people. Fundamentally, the people that become Masons and that stick with Masonry, I think, are very much the same. We bring different things to the table, but at our core, I think we're very much more alike than we are different.
Absolutely. It's one area I wanted to talk to you about, because I know one other brother who's similar to you in this regard, but it's definitely the exception, not the rule, is your father's a Mason, but he joined after you.
Yeah. That was one of my highlights in my Masonic career, was being junior deacon for my dad's initiation. And an even greater highlight, without betraying any of our secrets, was that I did the 15 Fellowcrafts lecture for his third degree. So I got to...
That would be a highlight.
I got to get back at him for a little bit.
That would be a highlight for sure. What is that like? Because the majority of the time when you do have a family connection connection to Masonry. It's, you know, the father's the Mason first, then the son follows. That's how it went for me, right?
Yeah, that's certainly more common. Yeah.
So, what was it feeling like throughout the whole process, from when your father first expressed an interest in Masonry to getting the chance to be there for his initiation and be a part of his degrees? What was that like? Tell me about that.
It was, well, it's, the way I joined was my grandmother, after my grandfather had passed, this is my dad's dad, both of my grandfathers were Masons, unbeknownst to me, and unbeknownst to a lot of the family, because it was very secretive back then when they were active. And nobody in the family really knew what they were doing. Oh, they're going to a lodge meeting, and that was as much explanation as you got. You didn't know what the Masons did. And that was the case with my dad and his dad. My grandfather, I don't think, shared a great deal of what Masonry was for him. But anyway, my grandmother gave me his Masonic ring as a keepsake. That was when I was maybe 15 years old, so I was far too young to join the lodge or anything at the time, and I always had this ring. It was the only real valuable piece of jewelry I had. Very always proud of it, a nice memento from my bub. And my dad said, oh, that was his Masonic ring. And I said, well, what do you mean Masonic ring? What's that? He said, oh, he was a Freemason. What's that? And my dad's response was basically, it was a group he belonged to. I don't really know. He didn't know. And again, it's a shame that my bub didn't share more with him. So that kind of that planted the seed and got me interested. And years later, I had an opportunity to join the lodge, and I joined up, and wow, okay, this is what it's all about, right? So then, talking to my dad about it and explaining to him a little more, probably teaching him the lesson that I wish my grandfather had taught him, that sparked an interest in him. And I was in for maybe 2 years or so, maybe 3 even, when he finally said, you know, I really think I'd like to join the lodge. And, wow, this is going to be cool, because I don't think too many guys have been able to take part in their father's initiation. So after he expressed an interest, it was bang, 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 you know, pretty quick to bring him in. And dad's come up and been quite active. After he got his 3rd degree, I remember getting in the car to drive home, and I took my bub's ring off, and I said, well, really, this is the right place for it. You should have it. So I gave it to him, and my dad now wears that ring, and I have my other grandfather, my maternal grandfather's Masonic ring that was left to me as well. So yeah, it was, I would say that the only reason my dad wasn't already a member of the lodge was because my grandfather didn't teach him enough about what the lodge was. Because I know Dad gets a lot out of it to this day. You know, he's been through the chairs much like I was. Dad followed very much in my footsteps. He was master a year or two after I was. He was thrice puissant Grand Master immediately following me in the Scottish Rite. In fact, I was his installing master in both bodies, which was quite a lot of work. But and he's now very active with the Shrine up in Bruce County. They now live in Kincardine. He keeps himself pretty active with Masonic ventures up there. So yeah, it's I guess it should be a lesson to any brother out there. You know, talk to your son about it. You don't have to hammer it into him, but make sure he knows what you're doing, and when he's ready, he'll want to come to the craft as well.
My dad described Masonry when he was growing up, because in my case it's the same thing. Both my grandfathers were Masons. So talking to my dad, because I did an interview with him for Father's Day show, but he described Masonry when he was growing up as quiet, is what he said. He said everybody was, his father, my grandfather, was very quiet about Masonry. It wasn't a secret per se, everybody knew where he was going, but he didn't discuss anything about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting how much things have changed from then to now in terms of how people approach the craft and how people approach talking about the craft, and even how people approach the idea, and you talked about this, of solicitation, which I think, you know, it's definitely, we both agree, you know, it's, the idea is correct, but maybe the interpretation of what solicitation is.
Exactly. I think that's the mistake that a lot of brethren have made, and that was the mistake both my grandfathers made, was not, I don't want to say that they should have solicited, but not discussing Masonry to some extent with their kids or with their friends or just with other people. There was a time where there was a lineup at our doors to come and become a member. that's not really the case anymore. And anything we can do to raise our profile in the community, to find the right men that want to become members, I think is a good thing. Now, it should never turn into pressure on somebody. And that's what that rule really is. Don't pressure someone. If you have, especially, I'm a plumber, if I had an apprentice and he's working with me all the time and I start pushing him to be a mason and he's thinking, oh, well, it would help my job, and that's not what this is supposed to be about. But to say to a friend that you know is like-minded, that you know would benefit from the lodge, to say to them that, I'm a part of this group, and if you ever considered, or you had the free time and would have an interest in coming out, just let me know. That's not really soliciting. That's just showing somebody an open door. They can walk through. You're not going to push them through it. Just give them the opportunity. And I think so often when people come to masonry, in this day and age, we get applications online, and that Grand Lodge will pass them on to different lodges. Like, that never happened years ago. And that's almost a desperate act from somebody to try to become a part of this, because they don't know the right way. They don't know a mason to talk to. The reality is they probably do, and they're just not aware of it. And that individual is afraid to solicit. So they don't want to say something. And here we're missing out on good members and people that will really benefit from being part of our craft, just because of what I think you and I agree is a misinterpretation of that rule that we don't solicit members.
And just the raising of the profile, I think, is such an important thing too, because Masons are part of, and oftentimes incredibly active parts of the community, and supportive of the community. Whether it's, we're doing an episode about some different small businesses we support. We order in local food for refreshments and blood donations, and we're very active in the community. And I think it's important that that's known, because it creates goodwill with the community, right? Which
Absolutely.
is such an important thing.
Yeah, and those are the kind of things that people will see and will inspire people to want to be a part of it. People, the like-minded people, the people that are going to benefit from it, will be inspired by that kind of thing and will want to come and be a part, as opposed to people that are studying occultism and think that we're the classic fear of what Freemasonry is, all the negative stuff, and they think they want to be a part of that. I've been on investigating committees with applications that have been passed down from Grand Lodge, and you going to meet this individual, and like, man, you are not looking to get into this for the right reason whatsoever. And we've turned down a number of candidates because of that. Whereas I think by presenting ourselves for what we really are, which is moral and upright people and charitable people and people that want to be an active part of their community, by presenting yourself as that, then the right people are going to want to come and be a part of it, and not just people that watch, watching the wrong shows on TV or whatever.
And especially nowadays, right? There's so much false information out there, and it's so easy. It's one thing back when there was no internet, there was no YouTube, to remain quiet.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to necessarily worry as much about the amount of false information out there.
Yeah.
But now there's so much.
Yeah, there is, and it's so easy to slant things to show whatever evidence you want. I mean, my lord, there's a flat Earth society.
Yeah.
Like, come on, So it's pretty easy to take to mold evidence to fit your storyline, and people can do that about Freemasonry like they can with everything else. And anything, we hear these things about the Illuminati and the Freemasons are a part of this and that. And I think, I've been a Freemason for years. I don't know that I'm at the top of the craft, but I've moved up a fair way. And frankly, we have a hard time organizing a dinner, let alone running the world, right? But people don't want to look at certain people don't want to look at the reality of that. And they want to come and be a part for the wrong reason. We want people to come and be a part of our group for the right reason, and that's the right people will, right? That's why raising the profile, by showing what we do, by presenting something tangible about what we do, is going to attract the right people and help the membership come up, which is something we all need.
Absolutely. Do you think, or how do you think Masons go about like some actual concrete things about attracting the right people? Obviously, it's as we discussed, proper solicitation is okay. So being willing to discuss what we are and what we do.
Yep.
And not being as quiet. Well, obviously, you want to maintain the secrets because that's an important part of joining. Talking about, our principles and why we join and what it is we do is important.
Yeah.
But what are some kind of practical things that you think Masons should be more involved in, like joining parades? I know you talked about, Grand Lodge is involved with prostate health.
Yeah.
And promoting that. So what are some other ideas?
Well, I mean, my personal opinion of directions we could take. Again, we spoke earlier about off camera about the Rite for that. And I thought that would have been a good thing that we could support. Frankly, anything that falls in line with the Masonic principles and taking part in it. One of the things that people need to remember is that we are a fraternal organization. We're not a charitable organization. We practice charity as part of lessons that we're taught, but our primary focus is not doing charity. So we need to look beyond simply supporting charities, which is a great thing. And by no means am I saying we should do less of it, but that can't be the only outlet. Frankly, I have more of a grassroots opinion about how do we get new members. You get new members by remembering that you are somebody's vision of what Mason is. Every Mason needs to know that. When people think, a number of my friends think of Freemasonry, they think of me because they know that I'm a member of the lodge. By conducting myself according to Masonic principle, you will inspire the right people to want to be a part of it. And like we said, proper solicitation. Those are the things that will get it out. And I think it's just by freely discussing, I'm going to lodge tonight. What do you do there? I can say a lot about what we do in lodge without betraying any secrets. So go ahead and tell people what we do. Like I always explain that we preserve kind of some ancient rituals in that, and we discuss moral topics and morality, and you try to just explain it. Try not to make it sound too dry, because frankly it does sound dry when it's described, but when you're a part of it, you appreciate what's great about it. But I think if every individual Mason was more open to discussing it with non-Masons, that in and of itself would increase our profile immensely. And a lot of our old guard still has the no solicitation thing stuck in their head. And again, there's a difference between like pressuring somebody and soliciting that way versus just simply putting something out there and letting them come to it of their own, right? But at the same time, anything that we do in the community is good. The cornerstone laying at City Hall that we did, that was a great thing. It was, the profile was up, and unfortunately, I felt terrible that I wasn't able to be a part of that. But I worked on that job, and when I was back at work on the Monday, a number of guys were, I met the guys that knew you, and there was a little bit of a Masonic buzz going on around the building. The more we do that, the more we're going to have people that want to come and join and be a part of it. So yeah, anything that you don't want to cheapen it, but I mean the reality is anything that's going to be on TV or in the paper or puts the square and compass out there, just so people know that we're still around, we're still active, we're still doing good things, we're still making good men better. Come and try it out.
Something you said got me thinking just now. You talked about, it can be dry when you talk about it, but the truth is, Masonic meetings can be dry.
Not when you're making balloon animals.
Not when you're making balloon animals. Definitely, that was one of the more enjoyable experiences. But I sometimes wonder, it seems like there's a tension in Lodge between the idea of, making it enjoyable versus, the dry but necessary work of, paying bills, reading minutes, and trying to find that, appropriate balance. I've used the analogy sometimes. I don't always enjoy attending Lodge, but I find it fulfilling.
Yeah.
If that makes, in the same way, I don't necessarily enjoy working out. I've never enjoyed doing push-ups.
Yeah.
But I find it fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
But trying to find that balance, because, like I said, your balloon animals at the one meeting definitely saved me and made me enjoy the night. But I also recognize, it's important that the hard work be done too.
Yeah.
So where do you find, I've heard some members suggest that more of the administrative tasks should be put on the master and the secretaries and treasurers, and meetings be more for educational purposes and balloon animals. Do you have an opinion about like where you draw that line, or how you find the balance between the hard work and the enjoyment?
I mean, this is where we were saying earlier about changes in masonry, and I don't know that masonry can change too much. There's certain little tweaks that you can give it. We can make balloon animals or do origami or something as Masonic education, or talk about something a little bit later. I will say that engaging Masonic education is an awesome tool towards making your meetings more enjoyable and less dry. Now again, describing that to somebody, it's going to sound dry, but sitting through it isn't. We had a couple of our members, the Heramic brothers, that made a Neolithic yard, which if I won't.
I was there for that.
Yeah, I'm not going to even try to explain how they did it. It was a heck of a process. But they came in, and rather than going up to the front with a book and reading a passage and discussing it, which again is fine, and you can learn a lot from that kind of stuff. But if that's what it is every time, it starts to get dry. Repetition is gonna inspire nothing but boredom. So new things are good. And they came in, they set up a PowerPoint. We had everybody shift over to the one side, and we did a whole presentation about how the Neolithic yard was produced back in ancient times. And it was excellent. Everybody enjoyed it so much. You don't have to do it every meeting, but once in a while, breaking the monotony by doing something unique like that. And I think Masonic education presents you the best option. The meetings are very structured. Our business meetings are structured, and they serve a purpose. We have to pay our bills. We have to go through our minutes. This is just the reality of having a group like this. These things need to be done. Presenting good Masonic education, guest speakers. Over the past few years, we've had a number of guest speakers come in. We've invited Masons and non-Masons as well, which also brings a little bit of fresh blood in. You could bring your wife, whatever. We would close the lodge, and then after the lodge was closed, we'd bring in the guest speaker and bring in all of our guests to come and enjoy speaking about a few different topics. We had a philosophy professor from the university come and talk about kind of like Christian apologetics in this day and age, and we had a young lady who was a doctoral candidate who came and spoke about the drug problem in Windsor and the problem with opiates and things like that. So a variety of topics, but that kind of keeps things fresh. So anything you do that will bring in those new ideas within the confines of our structure is going to make it a lot more enjoyable. And then the other key is your fellowship afterwards is very important. Having everybody come up and break bread together and enjoy a meal together, and something that Rose Lodge has done. After a meal upstairs, if you have time, it's typically getting a little bit later at night. We're on a Wednesday, so guys have to work in the morning, but if you have time, we'll go downstairs and we'll enjoy the anteroom to the red room, sit on the couch and have a much more casual conversation than you're able to have in open lodge, and just enjoy that little bit of fellowship. And that has helped us to retain new members a lot better than we have in the past. We talk about brotherhood, we talk about the fellowship. It's nice to be able to feel it right there. Okay, come on down, we're gonna have a drink, we're gonna sit. We put a little bit of music on, and it's just a nice casual hangout time. And the guys really enjoy it, and it keeps things interesting. And another, I guess, another important one is fostering discussion in the lodge about motions, about your communications, about things. And the only way to do that is to speak up once in a while. Create a discussion. Ask a question. If you're sitting on the sidelines and somebody's read through the minutes and there was more for correspondence. They read a letter and you want some clarification, get up and talk about it. Because if you had a question about it, odds are other guys did, and they just wanted to sit on their hands and get through the meeting. But once you open the floor up and have some discussion, it makes the meetings a lot more engaging and enjoyable. Often it's just the master and the secretary talking back and forth. Or one senior brother, a lot of lodges have the one guy that's going to question everything, right? So he gets up and a little back and forth goes on between him and the master, him and the secretary, and that's it. But by encouraging, simply by saying, I'd like to hear what other brothers think. Could another brother address this? By pushing that just a little bit in a couple of meetings, you'd be surprised at how much more discussion goes on following. As soon as guys are comfortable standing up and speaking, they'll do it more, and it makes the meeting more than just reading the minutes and more than just paying the accounts, and that's, you know, that's an important thing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that. A lot of really, really good points. You know, it's important that it's not just the same thing over and over again, you know?
Yeah.
That you're trying new things, and that you're encouraging different guys to speak up, because especially if you're brand new.
Yeah, it's intimidating.
Yeah, so if you're not able to, if you do feel intimidated at the start, you might continue to feel that way, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you have someone encouraging you to ask questions, and you're not going to know certain things.
Exactly.
You're not going to know what a semi-annual return is,
right,
when it's discussed. But you should definitely ask. And speaking of your, you know, Rose Lodge's really great speaker series, I was really happy to attend them both. I was working at the Southwest Attention Center when you had Amy, I believe her name was Amy Alberton, the student who spoke on addiction. Mm-hmm. So we were dealing with that firsthand at the jail, issues of addiction. So I was able to actually not only attend myself, but I was able to bring some colleagues from the jail to come as well to hear us speak. And so again, it just opened up Masonry to the community, but also this building to the community. You know, it brought people in to see what we do, and that we are concerned about the community.
Yes.
Because, you know, especially that addictions, Masons are people too. We have families too, and right now everybody's talking about the current situation, pandemic, but you know, we all know Masons who have been affected
for sure
by addiction, or who are at risk of being affected by addiction.
Yeah. So it doesn't discriminate.
No, so I thought it was a terrific thing to bring that in.
Yeah.
And to have her speaking about an issue that's going to affect everybody at some point.
Yeah.
Or will know somebody who's affected.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whether directly or indirectly, but yeah, it has an effect. For sure. It was yeah, they were good. They were well attended, which was nice. All things considered, they were fairly well attended. We had a good turnout. Like you say, these are the things that we'll get a brother like you saying, hey, I'm going to go to this. You might enjoy it. You're not a Mason, but you might enjoy it. Why don't you come to the lodge? And inviting people, that's what's going to get membership up. That's what's going to get us more into the spotlight, more where people can see what we're doing. And it's important. Any opportunity that any brother gets to bring a non-Mason into this building or to a Masonic event, you know, do your best to get people to come out, because that's what will spark the interest, right? Complacency doesn't foster change.
That is very, very true. Looking ahead, what are you looking forward to most in Masonry, and what challenges do you see moving forward?
What am I looking forward to most in Masonry? I'm coasting right now in Masonry because of life, and that's what happens. I jumped in with both feet as a young man, and I kind of charged right down the road of my Masonic journey, and got to a point where I was getting overloaded, and I backed off a little bit. My son was born, and work pressures and things like that. So I've slowed down a little bit, and frankly, what I look forward to is being able to dedicate more time to it when more time comes available. And that time's coming, and then in a few more years, I'll be able to get back in. I've always looked forward personally to maybe going to the DD chair. I've thought as well about participating in some of the Grand Lodge committees, because it's within all of us to make a difference in the craft, and those are the avenues to do it. Not that I feel that the craft needs any major changes, but you know, I'd like to put my 2 cents in as well, and that's the way to do it. So I basically look forward to having the time to rededicate myself to the craft. I still remain active in my Blue Lodge. I participate in Scottish Rite. I don't know that I would call myself a very active member of Scottish Rite anymore, but I do participate, still take part in a couple of degrees, and I try to attend when I can, but it's challenging, right? Life gets in the way. So I guess I'm just looking forward to my kids growing up, right? My son growing up, and life getting less complicated, and having more free time to dedicate to it. And challenge-wise, I mean, we face the same challenges that every organization like us faces. The same with the Rotary faces, the Lions Club, a lot of them are facing with declining membership, and it's basically based on the same thing that's stopped me from being as active as I'd like to be. It's just a lack of time. People don't have time these days to dedicate, as much as they'd like to, and I suppose that the challenge would be how do we help people balance that time? It can be very daunting to a new member coming in, especially after a year or two, getting entrenched in the lodge, and then realizing, like, wow, what have I gotten myself into here? And that was a realization I came to. I was participating at the time in probably 7 different degrees in the Scottish Rite. I was going through officer chairs and sitting as master in my Blue Lodge, as well as in the Scottish Rite at the same time, as we discussed. It was very overloading. And I kind of wish that somebody had helped me hey, brother, slow down, pace yourself. And I always try to do that with new members. Pace yourself, take your time, don't get overloaded, don't let masonry become a burden to you. It's not meant to be a burden. And nobody wants it to be a burden. As much as it may feel like the guys want you to do all this work, when I finally said that, hey, I'm at my breaking point, guys, what really shocked me was how caring the brethren really were. And when I finally said it, because the squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you say everything's fine, guys aren't mind readers. And when I finally opened up and said, like, I'm actually at the point where I'm having anxiety problems because of the amount of workload that I've taken on, they went, whoa, brother, no, stop. Like, just don't do this, get rid of this, back off a little bit. We don't want you to feel like that. And that really warmed my heart, it was one of those times that I most felt the brotherhood of masonry was actually, as I was saying, I needed to step back from it because the understanding the guys had. So, that's, I guess the best thing we can do is, rather than reacting to that situation, is trying to take steps not to let it happen. Let's not be too eager to push guys through. Let's let that journey take the time that it needs to take to have the impact that it needs to have to make that good man better, for him to get the most out of his journey. Just take your time and be patient. And I think through that, people will be less intimidated. I've noticed there have been a couple of new members come through that backed off, and I think it was an intimidation at the workload that can be there. And I think we need to make sure not to overload a new member, to ease guys in, to let people take it at their own pace, and don't pressure anybody. And by doing that, we'll make it more enjoyable for guys. And the more enjoyable it is, the more people are going to want to take part in it, right? Like I love the craft. I would never want to leave it. I needed to kind of back off a little bit. I needed some time, right? And I think I would be more active even today if I hadn't gone through that. I'm just kind of working my way back towards it. But had I paced myself and come at it slowly, I wouldn't have let myself get overloaded, and I probably would be currently doing even more than I am, just because it's just the way it works, right? So yeah, I mean, our challenges are not overloading our new members, or finding guys that can participate and do some work, and giving them an appropriate amount to keep them interested, to keep them enjoying it, and to keep them coming up.
Take your time and be patient is good advice for masonry, but good advice for life too.
It is, and a lot of the lessons we learn, this is what I get most of in masonry. They're life lessons, yeah, and it applies to the lodge, it applies to your career, it applies to your home life, it applies to everything. There's universal truths here. It takes a little bit of time to digest them though, and I think we got to give guys time to digest them. I don't know that I even understood what nobody does. Think about after the first degree, after you're initiated, how you feel at the end of that meeting. I don't feel that I came out of it enlightened, more bewildered than enlightened. What was that? It wasn't until I read through that book, 400 times, before I started to really digest what the lessons were that were taught there. And, anybody can come and just listen and take part and get, go through the degrees, and, you remember your obligations and you remember your parts that you have to say, but the meaning of it is what takes time to understand, not just the words. And everybody can hear the words, but you need to understand what they mean, and that takes time. And each lesson, as you apply it, you see the benefit of it, and you see more, like that leads into the next one. That's one of the things I love about it. For me, masonry is I'm not a churchgoer, and I feel like it fills that spiritual gap in me, and maybe that's left by not subscribing to a particular religion. It's my moral compass, right? And the more you learn about it, the more it can direct you in the right way.
I think that is a good piece of advice and a good place to leave it. It's a good piece of advice for people in general, but certainly for Masons, right? Is just that, it's the importance of remembering to take your time, remembering to, pay attention to the things around you, pay attention to, for a Mason, right, pay attention to your degrees, but also don't expect to get it all at once. That's not what it is, right?
No, receiving the degree does not mean understanding the degree. All you've got is just planted the seed and then study it and think about it. I tell candidates going through, when we start, especially at an initiation, you go and introduce yourself. Hey, it's great to have you. And just going to tell you, pay attention to what's going on. Try to look around a little bit, because there's no step, there's no movement, there's no word that's wasted in any of our degrees. Every single one means something. And I tell people that, and I'm still shocked on reflection of certain things in our ritual that, hey, wait, maybe this means, it changes your mind about things. And that reflection, I think, is one of the most important parts of your Masonic journey, right? That's what makes you a better man, is reflection, and then applying it to your daily life. There's 1,000 lessons in there. There's a lesson in the way that we stand. There's a lesson in the way that we walk. There's a lesson in the way the lodge room is laid out. And every little thing that's in there, every little nuanced thing means something. And that's one of the things I love about it. No matter how many times you see a degree, I still get something new out of each degree. You can know every lecture in the degree, but sometimes it takes to sit back and see somebody else deliver it and think about what's going on and see that big picture of it to really understand what those lessons are. That's what Masonry is, to me anyway.
And that is a very good place to leave it, because that is a great way to look at Masonry. And I think you're absolutely right. That's what Masonry is, right? It's a chance to reflect on your life and on the person you are, and reflect on ways you can improve.
Yep.
And just that. We even talked about it, right? There's certain degrees in Masonry and in the Rites where reflection is the most important thing, and reflecting on everything from your life to your death is the most important thing. And I think, a little bit more maybe self-reflection in the world could be used right now, instead of,
Yeah, definitely.
So maybe that's something Masonry has to offer.
Yeah, well, and remembering that it's the brotherhood and the fellowship is very, very important, very important. But at the same time, Masonry is a personal journey, an internal journey. It's a personal journey that you take among like-minded men that will support you and help you through that journey. But you go through the journey yourself. It's inside you. I think if you're doing it right. So, it's important to remember that there's the personal side of it, and there's the fraternal side of it, and both are very important.
I agree completely. And with that, worshipful brother, I hope that next time I get to sit in lodge with you, perhaps you'll have, I think you mentioned origami.
Maybe we'll give that a try.
We've done the balloon animals, so maybe next up is origami, or I don't know where we go from there.
Oh, I love all kinds of goofy little crafts, so I'll come up with another one. Maybe we'll do oil painting one day. We'll do a Bob Ross night.
Oh, I'm sure Javon will love that.
Yeah.
Make sure to get some things to put on the
we'll
carpet.
put some drop cloths down. We won't do it on the carpet.
But, gonna say maybe do some arc welding.
For sure. Yeah, I can weld, kinda.
I tried it once. I set my chair on fire. So
I haven't done it since trade school. I was good at it then. I think the one time I struck an arc since then, it was kind of looked like a bunch of grapes. But
I was never good at it. I was the shits. I tried it. I took shop in high school, and it didn't go well. I set my chair on fire. I broke a machine. I remember the teacher. He was a Geordie, so from Northern England, which is where my dad is from, so they liked each other. But he came up to me and he said, "You're not very good at this." He said, "Maybe you talk a lot. Maybe try to get involved in something that requires talking." That's what he told me. And so went to law school, so there you go.
Well, see, there you go, right? It pays to be direct sometimes. Listen, this isn't for you.
Yeah, maybe don't set more things on fire if you can help it.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe the knowledge of thyself, maybe that reflection piece would have came in handy.
That's right.
I got it from Masonry now, but back then I got it from Mr. Brown. Wow, I haven't said that name in a long time. High school was too long ago.
Yeah, sadly, it gets further and further away.
It does that, Not having like this getting older nonsense.
No, I didn't sign up for this.
It happens to the best of us, I suppose.
When I joined Rose, I think I was one of the youngest Masons in the district. I won't say I was the youngest. There were a few other guys that were in their early 20s as well, but I was 26. And I go to the meetings now, and I'm not the young guy in the room anymore, eh? It happens fast.
Yeah.
You blink, and all of a sudden, look at all these young guys. No gray on their hair.
Yeah, it's not cool at all. I joined, oh my god. So I joined 2007, and I can't even think now how old I was at the time, 20 something. Okay, I'm 36 now. I can do math. I'm 36 now, and it's 2020.
Yeah.
So I would have been, that was 13 years ago, so I would have been 23. And I remember maybe a year or two in, I was talking to Paul Rogers, worshipful brother Paul Rogers, and I told him I had just passed 25, and I was like, 30's coming up soon, Paul, I don't like this. And Paul just looked at me and said, "Go fuck yourself, Cameron," and he just walked away.
Cry me a river.
I get it now, being 36. I'm not dealing with it well.
Don't worry, them 40 come, they're all just numbers, whatever. 40 will come next, and 50, and mine was 30. 30 hurt me a little bit because I kind of felt like, in your 20s, you're still young, right? You're grown, and to a teenager, you're a grown-up, but you're not really a grown-up, You're not the one they gotta listen to. All of a sudden, I hit 30 years old, and kind of by anybody's standards, I'm an adult now. There's nobody that considers me a kid now that I'm over 30, eh? So that one hurt a little bit, but I got over it. 40 came and went, we'll see what 50's like.
Yeah, 35 for me was the worst.
Yeah.
30 I didn't like, but I was like, whatever, because you're still, I didn't quite feel it as much, but yeah, after turning 35, now things hurt more. And
my mom was a nurse for most of her career, and spent a lot of it working in old age homes and retirement homes and nursing homes and things like that. So dealing with the elderly. And she told me something that gave me great perspective on aging. She said, the person that you are at about, her number was 23. She said, when you're 23, your brain is fully developed, because it's not before that, and that's why some of your 21-year-olds don't quite get it yet. But at about 23, your brain reaches its full development, and you become, for the most part, the person that you're going to be. And she said it's hard on somebody who's 93 to look in the mirror and see the wrinkled face and see the gray hair, because on the inside, they're still that 23-year-old. And I think you still feel that. And I've noticed as I get older that, mom's pretty accurate. In my heart, I still feel like I'm 25 or something like that. When I see something heavy and I want to go pick it up, I still look at it through 25-year-old eyes, and then my 43-year-old back grabs it and I regret it instantly. It's it's a hell of a thing getting older, but it's the journey we're on, right?
Luckily for me, I worked it out. I'm just going to go backwards. Next year, I'm turning.
You're going to be 35 next year?
35 next year.
Awesome.
I guess
this
this year, September, I'm going to be 35, and then I'll just keep going back down, and then once I get to 23, I'll go back up.
There you go. Just have an as old as you feel party, eh? Happy birthday. How old are you? I feel like I'm 25. We'll go with that.
I'd be 50 sometimes.
Yeah, that's it too. Yeah, there's some days where you feel older than you are, right?
Especially after particularly taxing wrestling practice. It definitely, I don't feel 23, that's for sure.
Yeah. I get it at work a lot. I have a physical job.
Oh yeah.
And there's days where it's not bad and I feel like I'm on top of the world. And there's other days where I've been kneeling down all day and I try to stand up and I look like a 100-year-old man. I can't straighten my back. My knees are killing me. Like, God, when did I get this old?
Well, this is a nice place to end it. Now we've brought everybody down. Just to remind you, you're all getting older and you're all going to die one day. Just put that out there.
Fortunately, I can still come to the lodge and feel kind of young.
It helps, yeah. Just find the old guy. I mean,
That's right.
I mean, I always sit next to Paul Rogers for that very reason.
That's right, Paul.
He's practically 70, 80 years old.
Oh yeah, just about.
So, take that, Paul Rogers.
I had nothing to do with this, Paul.
And with that, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Kim.
And thank you for the balloon animals. I'm going to take them to my neighbors.
I hope they enjoy them. I find adults enjoy them even more than kids do.
Well, speaking of like keeping young at heart, you know.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta have some fun. Keeps you young.